Good evening, my beautiful brothers and sisters in Yeshua. Today is Tuesday, the 2nd of July, 2024. It is 9:35 p.m. here in Australia. I hope you're doing well and I hope you've been blessed. I thought I'd just jump on here and do a video tonight of all sorts of different things. And so, as always, I just want to start this video by saying this is my journey. You do not have to agree with me. I love to research, I love to learn. Some people may take that as me being, going right off on the deep end and becoming heretical and all this kind of stuff. That's fine. You can think whatever you like to think. But I just want to make the disclaimer that this is my research, this is my journey. I know some of my brothers and sisters love going on this journey with me and have an open mind and just would like to question. That's all I'm doing here. I'm just questioning because as far as I'm concerned, we've been lied to so hardcore. So this is my disclaimer to say that, what I'm going to talk about tonight is my theories, my opinions, what I've looked into and my journey. So with that being said, I've got a whole array and bunch of things that I want to talk to you about, and a few TikTok videos that I want to show you, and let's jump straight into it. So this is the beginning of my research. I was just looking around for the oldest language known to man. Okay, and then it has this list here, which is like Greek, Sanskrit, etc. And the oldest one is Coptic Egyptian. Okay, date of oldest known example is 2690 BCE. Okay, so the reason I want to know this is because I want to get right down to the nitty gritty of it. I want to find out the most original of the original of the original story. I want to know the truth. I want to know where we come from, who we are, and all this kind of stuff. So this is what led me on a massive rabbit hole. So I'm looking into this, and I see this Coptic Orthodox Church of Alexandria and the Coptic Catholic Church. Okay, this is in Egypt. So I thought, okay, I'm going to have a look at that first. And then we come here, and this is the Coptic Orthodox Church. And we can see here the Coptic Orthodox Church, the Egyptian Orthodox Church, also known as the Coptic Orthodox Patriarchate of Alexandria, is an Oriental Orthodox Christian church based in Egypt. Okay, the head of the church and the see of Alexandria is Pope of Alexandria on the Holy Apostolic See of St. Mark. And when I read St. Mark, a little ding 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 go off in my mind, because as you would know, my last couple of videos I've been really focused on Mark, and I've got a couple of dear brothers and sisters who I'm talking to, and I've mentioned that I really need to study Mark. There's just this big calling. Mark seems to be left out a lot. I want to know what Mark's about. And then I found out that Mark was the original first book of the Gospel, and that straight away was like, okay, so if that's like the source of where Matthew and Luke are getting it from, then I'm going to read Mark over again properly. And then when you read Mark, it's the shortest out of all the Gospels, and it doesn't have all the fanfare and, drama that goes on behind in Matthew and Luke. So this is going in the back of my mind, right? And I'm reading this again, and I'm like, okay, time to go back to Mark. So I click on St. Mark's Coptic Orthodox Cathedral, or first the Pope, okay? So this is the Pope of the Coptic Orthodox Church, okay? And he's been this Pope since the 18th of November, 2012, okay? So again, we see the primacy of the Patriarch of Alexandria is rooted in his role as successor to Saint Mark. Okay, and I'm going, okay, more Mark. So we go to Saint Mark, okay, St. Mark's Basilica, and we can see here that It's dedicated to and holds the relics of Saint Mark the Evangelist. Okay, so there's all this stuff on Saint Mark, and he is described rather, as having a lion with eagle's wings always around him. Okay, and here you can see here the Lion of Saint Mark. Okay, this will all make sense in a minute when I go into why the book of Mark is so significant, brothers and sisters. Okay, so this is the Lion of St. Mark, and I'll just blow this up here quickly so you can see. So this is the lion with the eagle's wings. Okay, let's go back here. Where are we now? Okay, St. Mark's Basilica. I was going to read you something else here, but yeah, this is last night's study, so I just reopened my tabs. Okay, it's Egypt. The coat of arms is an eagle. You've got to bear with me, brothers and sisters, because the problem is, one of my biggest problems of coming on here and doing videos anymore is this overflowing and overflood of information right now, and it's so hard to keep up and so hard to keep notes, and because your brain just goes into this big, oh my goodness, I need to sort of get a bigger terabyte brain so I can store this all on. But anyway, there is a point where I'm telling you about Mark. Okay, so I thought, okay, the first thing I'm going to do is look at the parable difference in the book of Mark compared to the other ones, okay? So, as you can see, Mark has the least amount of parables. Now, why I'm talking about Mark at the moment is because of it is my nature to question everything. So when someone says, like the Trinity, for example, when someone says, oh, Jesus actually wasn't really the Son, he was actually God manifested as a man, and God left heaven and came down and he became a man and he died for us and all this kind of thing. And I'm like, yeah, nah. If God died on the cross, the whole world and everything in existence would cease to exist instantly. So anyway, you know how I feel about the Trinity. I think it's the biggest blasphemy there is. But the reason I'm, again, telling you about Mark is because a few things happened and I watched a few videos and I wanted to share them with you so you could do your own research on it. So in a nutshell, Mark is the original book. Okay, Mark is a lot shorter than Matthew and Luke, and one of the most interesting things to ponder is the fact in Mark 16, which is the last book of Mark, it ends at verse 8. Okay, all the original scripts and manuscripts and the original New Testaments and stuff written in Greek never had Mark chapter 16 verses 9 to 20, whereas all the Bibles that we have now. Now, if we go to Mark 16, we're in Mark 1 here. All right, I'm going to just duplicate this, just bear with me for a sec. So I'm going to go to Mark 16 and I'm going to show you. So you go down here, so Mark 16, it's the last book of Mark, last chapter of Mark, and it says, the last verse is verse 8, and it says, and they went out quickly and fled from the sepulchre, for they trembled and were amazed, neither said they anything to any man, for they were afraid. Okay, so all of this was added on, okay? In none of the original text, brothers and sisters, was this event where it talks about Jesus rising, okay? Now, I want to stress this the things that I talk about are very, they don't tickle the ears, okay? I'm not telling you about the rapture. I'm not setting dates for the rapture, although I do have a date that I want to talk to you about in a little bit. But my search is fierce, okay? I don't hold back. And there's always questions about this and about that. And if you're going to stick with me on this journey, you have to be able to be open-minded enough. You don't have to agree with me, but you have to be able to be open-minded enough to actually question or go, why does it say that? Or, is this really the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Or are we being fed a twisted truth? Okay, so if Mark 16:8 ends before Jesus was risen, okay, so 9 goes, and now when Jesus was risen early on the first day of the week, he appeared to Mary Magdalene, out of whom he had cast 7 devils, and she went and told them that had been with him, and they mourned and wept, and they that had heard that he was alive and had seen her believed not. Okay, and then it goes on to say, after that he appeared in another form unto 2 of them, and they walked, and they went to the country, and they went and told it to the residue, neither believed they them. Afterwards he appeared to the 11 as they sat at meat, and upbraided them with their unbelief and hardness of heart, because they believed not them which had seen him after he was risen. And he said to them, go into the world and preach the gospel to every creature. He that believeth and is baptized shall be saved, but he that believeth not shall be damned. And these signs shall follow them that believe. In my name they shall cast out devils. They shall speak in new tongues. They shall take up serpents. And if they drink any deadly thing, it shall not hurt them. They shall lay hands on the sick, and they shall recover. So then, after the Lord had spoken unto them, he was received up into heaven, and sat on the right hand of God. And they went forth, and they preached everywhere, the Lord working with them, and confirming the word with signs following. That is, brothers and sisters, you have to see the significance of this. If this has all been added, there's so many things here that literally describe Paul, okay? Paul was bitten by a deadly snake and it didn't do anything to him, okay? This part was added. They shall take up serpents, and if they drink any deadly thing, it shall not hurt them. Okay, Paul laid hands on the sick, they recovered. Okay, he cast out devils, he spoke in tongues, all this kind of stuff. This is what's added, brothers and sisters. Go and do your own research. It's very, very easy, and the majority of scholars agree. You can even read it in some Bibles. If you've got a bunch of different Bible translations, have a look at Mark 16, and you'll see in the footnotes there that it'll say the original text did not include 9 to 20, verses 9 to 20. So what's going on here, brothers and sisters? What is going on here? And I want you to note, Mark 1 starts with John baptizing Jesus in the wilderness. There is no birth story. This is what I told you in many of my other videos. I was like, this immaculate virgin birth does not sit right with me. And many people may go, oh, it doesn't have to sit right with you, that's the truth. But again, Isaiah 7:14, where this virgin birth is supposed to be prophesied from, is not talking about Jesus. It's talking about the son that was going to be born to Isaiah, which is revealed in Isaiah chapter 8, in the next chapter. It's not talking about Jesus at all. There is a huge agenda here, brothers and sisters. And I just want you to understand what's going on here. I'm just presenting the evidence. You have got to take this and do with it as you will. If you don't like rocking the boat, then just leave it and be happy as you are. But it doesn't fly with me. Okay, so that's what I want you to note, that in Mark 1, okay, you don't have the genealogy, you don't have all this added stuff, which again, I told you in my other videos, that the genealogy was if I can put it in a nutshell, the Jews' way of going, oh, well, if we can't beat them, we'll join them. They literally joined David's bloodline onto Jesus to make it look like he is the promised Jewish Messiah. Brothers and sisters, he is the Son of Man. Jesus is the Son of Man. Look, I want to show you something before you get too angry at me. I typed in the words Son of God, okay, because I'm like, okay, is this ever talked about in Mark? This phrase, sons of God or Son of God, okay? And you have a look and it's got 70 Bible results for sons of God, okay? You see it all in the Old Testament. And I want you to notice here before we go into the New Testament, the first time the sons of God is mentioned in the Bible is Genesis 6:2, and it says that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they had chose. Okay, then you go to the interlinear Bible and put it next to a Greek text analysis, okay? Genesis 6:2. And it says here, and they were beautiful, that of men the daughters of God, the sons that saw, they chose whomever of all wives for themselves. Okay, when you look at the word God here, the sons of God, okay, it is the word Elohim, brothers and sisters, Elohim. These are the sons of Elohim, not of our loving Father in heaven. Okay, again, you have to realize, if you don't know yet, and my videos are new to you, go back and have a look at my videos about Yahweh. Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 are talking about the creation of humans and who really rules this world and who really created us. Okay, and now when I say this, I don't mean that we don't have this attachment to Father. We do. Our spirits are in the kingdom. It is our soul, okay, because there's a difference between a spirit. A spirit is what gives you attachment to the source, to Father, okay, whereas a soul is where we get our emotions from, which what makes us a human being. And we are trapped in this fleshly body with a soul, and unfortunately we are a byproduct of the Elohim, okay? But this is where the great salvation comes in, and why Jesus, Yeshua, walked on this earth and told us the truth that sets us free, okay, and gave us the keys out of this matrix. And I know people like to say, you know, why are you going down the in quoted, in bracket quotes, the new age? Okay, we've got to drop these titles. Christianity, the religion, is more new age than what the new age is. New age quite often talks about ancient Egyptian stuff and, you know, the so-called mythologies in different religions and things like this. Christianity is the newest one out of them all. So in effect, Christianity is new age. So we've got to drop those titles, please, brothers and sisters. You've got to remember, however long Satan, the enemy, the adversary, has time to, write this script, he's done a damn good job. And there's only very, 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 very small Easter eggs throughout this whole thing for us to join together. This is why it's taking so long, because there's only tiny bits of truth here and there. We've got to work hard and seek the kingdom and put this all together, right? But the reality is it's the Elohim, and it's the same with Enoch walked with God. Okay, we'll have a look at here. We'll find that verse, and I'll show you. It's Enoch walked with the Elohim. Okay, so we'll find where the verse is, and I'll show you in the interlinear. Oops. Okay, and Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. So it's Genesis 5:24. So let's go there. Genesis 5:24. Okay, God him took for, and he was not God with Enoch and walked. Okay, the word God, Elohim again. And Elohim was the one who talked to Noah. Okay, this is what Jesus came to do. This is what Yeshua came to do. Okay, he came to set the captives free from this matrix, from this prison planet that we're living in. And once you understand that, it is so freeing, because the wonderful thing is here, brothers and sisters, I need you to understand this, that the war has already been won. We are in a holding period, a holding tank at the moment, okay? Literally a holding tank within this place we call Earth. And the great thing is the war has already been won. We've just got to be faithful. We've just got to be the lights, the candlesticks, the what do you call it? We've got to set the example. And we're not supposed to be preaching on the corner about hell and death and destruction and everything like this, because it's all low negative vibrations, and the enemy loves it. They're laughing at all these people, instilling fear in the name of God. The end of the world, the tribulation, the rapture, are you going to be left behind? It's all mind control to make us fear and to bring us under that trap and slumber of, not having to worry about anything else but waiting for a Saviour to save us. Brothers and sisters, I've shown you, and you can look for yourself. I've shown you in my videos. I've given you the articles and the documents and the things where it shows you that the New Jerusalem, okay, that you see in the book of Revelation, it is a Jewish idea, okay, a Jewish idea that was added. This is not something that Jesus talked about. Okay, this is not something that Yeshua talked about. He said nothing about the New Jerusalem coming down out of heaven. What Jesus said was, you think you can look around and observe the kingdom of heaven, but the kingdom of heaven is something you cannot observe because it is found within you. Now, people want to say, that's la-di-da, new age stuff. No, it's literally the words of Jesus. It's literally the words of Jesus, brothers and sisters. He's the one that says this, and he also talks about, the soul is, your eyes are the window to your soul. Let your eyes be single. What does that mean? That's the pineal gland, okay? The inner eye, the one where you close your eyes and the things that you see when you dream and the things when you close your eyes and think about and daydream, that's your inner eye. It's literally a literal thing. It's not a la-di-da fancy hippie, thing. And we've got to drop these titles of New Age and all this kind of stuff. So what I wanted to, going back to Mark, okay, I want to express to you, brothers and sisters, that if they're going to quite easily add a whole, and you know what else they did? The story of the woman, the adulterous woman, where people wanted to the Jews wanted to pick up stones to stone this woman, and Jesus spits in the mud and writes something or whatever in the sand. That was completely added, and they're quite happy to acknowledge this. Scholars agree on this. So why? And same with the Garden of Gethsemane story. Or, sorry, is that right? Gethsemane? That sounds like the Looney Tunes. I don't know. In the garden where Jesus was crying tears of blood, that was also added. We have to take a step back, brothers and sisters, and I know it hurts. I've gone through my, my crying, my screaming, how can this happen, Father? I've done all that, and I'm at peace now, knowing that I can just look at stuff now and discern it properly. But by not having this indoctrination, that stops me from seeing the truth. And again, I want to stress, this is my journey. You don't have to take my word for it, but this is significant to me, and I would hope it would be significant to you, that if they're adding the resurrection story, okay, they're adding the resurrection story onto Jesus, and they're, so what do we have? I mean, everybody quotes from Matthew and Luke. Who quotes from Mark? Not a lot of people. Not a lot of people. And Mark starts from the baptism of Jesus, so when he's like 30, 33 years old, whatever it may be. There's no birth story. There's no immaculate conception, or there's no Holy Spirit hovering over Mary and getting her inseminated and pregnant. Brothers and sisters. And like I said, when we're having a look at the, we'll go back to this where I wrote about the sons of God. Okay. Let's go. Or was it here? Okay, sons of God. We go over here. It's written 70 times in the New Testament. It doesn't start until the book of John, Acts, Romans, Galatians. The word Son of God or sons of God is never in any of the Gospels, and it's not in Mark. Mark does not mention the Son of God once. So Mark does not see Jesus as the Son of God. And he also does not see him as Christ. So check this out. This is biblical. This is not me. This is just the things that I found out by actually reading the Bible. Okay, so Mark 8. This is the King James Version, okay? So Mark 8, we go down here to verse... we'll start at verse 27. Mark 8, starting at verse 27. And Jesus went out and his disciples into the town of Caesarea Philippi. And by the way he asked his disciples, saying unto them, Who do men say that I am? And they answered, John the Baptist, but some say Elias, and others one of the prophets. And he said to them, But whom say ye that I am? So who do you actually say that I am, though? And Peter answered and said to him, Thou art the Christ. And he charged them, so Jesus charged them that they should tell no man of him. Okay, in other versions, I think in John, it says, Blessed are you, Peter, because flesh and blood hasn't told you this, but my Father in heaven. But in Mark, it says, and he charged them that they should tell no man. And then it says, and Jesus began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected of the elders and of the chief priests and the scribes and be killed, and after 3 days rise again. And he spoke that saying openly, and Peter took him and began to rebuke him. But when he had turned about and looked on his disciples, he rebuked Peter, saying, Get thee behind me, Satan. For thou savourest not the things that be of God, but of the things that be of men. What is going on here, brothers and sisters? So one, we have Peter saying, You are the Christ. And Jesus says, Do not tell. I charge you this. Do not tell nobody that, that I am the Christ. And then he says, and then obviously Peter's like, no, I don't want you to die or whatever. And so Jesus gets Peter and begins to rebuke him and says, Get behind me, Satan. What's going on here, brothers and sisters? Why is it different in the book of John? I'm sus on the book of John, you know this. The book of John was the last of the so-called Gospels that was added, okay? And this is why it's so different than Matthew, Mark and Luke. It is what they call the spiritual gospel. Okay, and John picks up on this whole Genesis 1 theme, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Okay, two things, again, for those of you who are new, in the original Bibles, like the Geneva Bible and that, the word, W-O-R-D, was never capitalized. It never became a name. So it wasn't calling Jesus the Word. It was calling, in the beginning was the Word, the speech, the voice. And that's exactly what we read in Genesis 1. And God said, and God said, and God said, and there was a voice, right? Which is actually the Elohim said. The Elohim said. So the Elohim's making this dodgy creation. Okay, yes, it's beautiful and it's got wonderful things, but what Father has got in store for us is out of this world. You have never seen things, you could never comprehend what we're about to go into, brothers and sisters. This is, it'll be the new Earth 2.0, and it'll be much better, much more perfect. Anyway, getting back to this Mark thing. So just these are just some things I want you to think about. Okay? He charges them, don't tell anybody that I am the Christ. Okay? And, he calls himself the Son of Man. Never in the book of Mark or Matthew or Luke is the word Son of God. Okay? Now, so again, Mark 1 starts with the baptism of Jesus. There's no birth story. And this makes me want to question the book of Matthew and the book of Luke, which is highly quoted out of by many, Bible scholars and stuff. But poor little old Mark. And Mark is known as get this, they call these books, like the original books, they call them Q source. The letter Q, source. So that means the original book where other people copy off. So, long story short, what I'm saying is I believe we should all go and read the book of Mark again and see the differences of what is left out, what is added in, comparing it to the other two Gospels. Now, my biggest thing here, brothers and sisters, is the book of Mark does not mention that Jesus rose again. It stops. And it was cut off at his burial. Okay? It was cut off at his burial and of the women. And it doesn't mention that there was an angel at the tomb. It mentions there was just a young man. So are we in Mark 16 here? Mark 16. So we'll go down here. And they entered the synagogue. They saw a young man sitting on the right side, clothed in a long white garment. And they were frightened. Okay. It does say here, it does say here, you see Jesus of Nazareth, which was crucified. He is risen. He is not here. Behold the place where they laid him. Okay? Behold the place where they laid him. So basically, there's this guy with a long white garment. He says, Jesus who was crucified is risen, but he's not here. And then the last thing that was said, that they were trembled and amazed, and they said nothing to any man. This is a big conundrum, brothers and sisters, because if these people that came to this, who was it? Mary Magdalene and the mother of James, and Mary the mother of James, and Salome. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3 people have come to the tomb on Resurrection Day. They see this guy with a long white robe, and he says Jesus isn't here. And then these 3 women are terrified, and they told no one. And that's the end of the story of Mark. The book of Mark. Is there something really sinister going on here, brothers and sisters? Is this, I'm putting it out on the table. what is even true anymore? And, I'm not just pulling at straws here. And a lot of people are going to be really angry, probably, because they don't want to know this. They don't want to hear that everything that we've ever been told is a lie. Now, I am quite happy and quite at peace within myself to know the one thing that will never be shaken in the foundation of my belief and faith and what I understand is that Father, whether you call him Father God, and I don't like to just call him God because there's lots of gods. I like to call him Father. Okay, and to me that is what others would call source, the source of everything. Without that source, nothing would exist. Okay, I'm not trying to be hippie and new agey when I call him the source. I'm not meaning to be disrespectful, but I want to talk to you like adults. Let's just, put some logic and some, let's lay it out, the pros and cons, and see what's really going on here, because, it says people perish from their lack of knowledge. Now, never in a time in history have we had so much information at our fingertips. But do we have knowledge and wisdom? Or do we just have information? A lot of information, which is meant to, deceive us and make us confused, because that is the biggest thing. So I just wanted to share that with you about the book of Mark. And then I see here, there's this guy on YouTube called, that's not his name. What's his name? James D. Tabor. He's a PhD, okay? The Embarrassing Gospel of Mark. But the channel's name is Myth Vision Podcast. Okay? Check that out. So write that down or screenshot it. The Embarrassing Gospel of Mark. Myth Vision Podcast, is the channel. Now, I know the title doesn't sound great. It doesn't mean that Mark is embarrassing. It means this guy, what he's talking about is there's been this big, let's just, cover that under the rug, that Mark is the first original book and, it ends here. So why is Matthew and Luke, do they have this extra dramatization and this extra stories added to them, and he talks about Paul and why Paul quite often uses the phrase my gospel, because a lot of scholars would agree that it really should be called Paulinity instead of Christianity. Okay, because Paul's gospel, which he calls my gospel all the time, is very contradictory to Christ, very, to Jesus, to Yeshua. So, very interesting. So, check this guy out. You can check this one here, 13th of January 2023, Myth Vision Podcast, The Embarrassing Gospel of Mark. Just check it out. He's not being offensive, or he's just saying that, Jesus never intended to have all this stuff attached to him, and the book of Mark speaks and gives you the story of Jesus, whereas Matthew and Luke seem to be adding, or the church has added stuff onto it to make it seem, more interesting. Let's just put it that way. So that's that tab, and I'll leave that one there for the moment. Let's go on to, what have I got here? Okay, let's go on to some different stuff now. Now, when I talk about Q and Trump and everything like this, I am quite happy to say that I'm sitting on the fence. I am very diligent in giving Trump the benefit of the doubt, but also never giving him my full trust. I'm extremely wary, because I've done many years of saying that Trump was the Antichrist. And then in my recent videos, I'm like, you know, it could be very possible that that there is time travel and there's all this kind of stuff that they could go ahead in the future. They could see what was going to happen, and basically they were going to dog this person, right? And have the two factions. We've always got those two dividing sides, you've got Democratic Republic, and then you've got Trump, being a good guy or being a bad guy. There's always, everything is for division, to divide us, okay? So this is where I'm sitting with Trump. I am not going to give my full 100% thumbs up to him, but I'm not going to no longer say that he's the Antichrist. He could very well be. I'm just letting you know where I'm at with Trump. So it is yet to be seen, if this guy is really who he says he is, or, because look at it this way, the millions of people that love Trump, right, and they go to Trump rallies and all this kind of stuff, let's look at it this way, brothers and sisters. If he's really the enemy, right, and let's say if he's really the Antichrist, imagine this, the millions and billions of people all over the world, not just America, that love Trump and would want Trump to be their president in their country. If Trump was to turn around now and actually say, ha, I was tricking you all, suckers, imagine the backlash on this man. He would be hunted down with pitchforks and fire. People have had enough. People have had enough of people lying to them. So to me, I can't fathom how that could turn out, that he could be really an evil person in disguise, right? And tricking us. Just think about that logically. The millions of people that love him, and then if he was to turn around and say, I'm actually the Antichrist, you're all going to hell, he wouldn't exist by the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? The people have had enough all around the world. We've all had enough. So to me, I'm like, okay, I don't think, I'm leaning more towards that he is a good guy. And this is going to sound crazy, but those of you who have been with me for years, I'm crazy. This is just the way of my brain TikToks, okay? I truly think, with going back into the research of Nikola Tesla, and, just that the fallen angels technology, or even the golden age technology and all this kind of stuff, I truly believe there has been time travel, because I know they can remote view. Like, I've seen documentaries, and people, the evidence is that people can remote view, where they can sit in a building, they can remote view their vision into other parts of the world and see their battle plans and etc. That's legit. So if that's legit, then time traveling is absolutely legit. And this is what I think's happened. Remember last video or 2 videos ago, I showed you a TikTok of this guy who was from the CIA, and in the 80s or in the late 90s, whenever it was, doesn't matter, the CIA called this guy in because he was a specialist in his field, and they were like, we've got this machine, this computer, it's called Project Looking Glass, okay? That was the operation, Project Looking Glass. And they said, we've got this computer that can calculate all the possibilities of outcomes, okay? And basically, long story short, every detail and every possibility that they threw into this computer, it all came back to one final possible outcome. And the bad people did not like that possible one and only outcome, because it was good, because the war and the spiritual war has already been won. And they gave themselves computer, scientific, factual, hardcore evidence of the fact that, crap, we're losing, we've lost, it's done. And so they brought this guy in and said, you need to fix this problem. You need to give us, I don't know whether they wanted another possibility of a possible outcome that suited their favour, but it's not happening. Okay, even the guy went in and said, no, he did all his calculations and everything like this and said, no, you're right. This is the only final possible outcome, is this, whatever it may be. And he said back then, whenever it was in the 80s or 90s or early 2000s, he said it was impossible for me to explain. But now, in 2024, it makes perfect sense what that is, and that is the Great Awakening. Okay, now the Great Awakening it's another one of those titles that Christians don't like, okay? The Great Awakening is the understanding, the knowledge increasing, brothers and sisters, the knowledge increasing. It's biblical, okay? And it makes sense. That's what they're scared of, is the veil coming down, which it had. April 8th, that solar eclipse, I said it before, I'll say it again a million more times, that was the day that the veil came down completely. Okay, it came off everybody's eyes, and everybody's got a fair and equal opportunity now to see the real truth. And, it makes sense that, every evil thing is done in plain sight. It's right in front of us all the time. And they, the evil people live by this thing called the gentleman's code, where they have to show us ahead of time through movies, music, whatever it may be, predictive programming. So if they have to live by that law, it would also stand to reason that the good people, let's call them Q, just for the ease of it all, that they would have to live by that law too, that they could show us in plain sight, but in code, just like the bad people do, that there is a company, an amount of people that are gathered together that have decided enough is enough, and we're going to help. We're going to be the foot soldiers of the spiritual war on this earth, and we're going to bring down one by one the corruption, the tyranny, everything that goes on, the horrible things that these wicked people have been doing to children, etc., etc. Why can we not believe in that? Why are we not, they've demonized this Q, this Trump, this movement so much that even Christians, you read on any video that's been done by Trump, that shows Trump, you see all the Christians getting on there, I'm only bowing down to Jesus, and I'm only, Jesus is my king. It's only Christians that do this, brothers and sisters. It's only Christians that do this. And I just want you to think logically. Like I said before, imagine if he was to do this, if he was to say, I've tricked you, I'm actually evil. Not that he would say that in person anyway, but imagine if that was to happen. The system is already broken. The system has already been unveiled. We are awake now. It doesn't matter. It no longer matters if whatever plans out, because, again, and I say this with absolute 100% certainty, the victory has already been won. We are just sitting in the holding tank right now waiting for this. So that's what I wanted to share with you about that. Just something to think about. Because, it goes through my mind. I see some things and people put a good argument forward saying, Donald Trump's a real evil person. Then other people, you see something and it's like, man, this guy's actually, I can see why America loves him. And, and I was one to say this too. Different heads of the same snake, and he read the snake poem and all this kind of stuff, and he was, he was the father of Operation Warp Speed and brought the jib jab in and all this kind of stuff. Yes, those were strong arguments of him being an evil one, but I saw a documentary the other day about the reasons why he had to do Operation Warp Speed and bring in that jib jab. And it was said that the military got involved and millions of dispatch of saline was dispatched. Because if something to do with if you didn't get this one through, then there was something bigger and more evil planned for humanity. So it was the lesser of the two evils that were going to come out, but he had to do that. I've got to find this documentary. Some of you probably already know what I'm talking about. It could be all BS too, okay? Like I said, I'm sitting on the fence with this one, but I have to bring it to you. Now, the reason I want to bring this to you too is the letter Q is represented from 17. It's the 17th letter of the alphabet. Now, okay, so when you go to this Q clock countdown, right, down here you'll see a little picture of the Twitter bird. So you go to X, so you click on that and it'll go to this page, right? It'll go to this page. And this is QTM, Q the Storm. And this is their, so how long ago was this? 8 p.m. Okay, so it was 2 hours ago. It says, alert, the storm of the century is here. Evacuate immediately. Head for high ground. Nothing stops this. Okay, huge. And I'm like, oh my goodness, where is that? So I have a look, and it's Hurricane Beryl. Now, this is amazing. This is another reason why whatever you're studying, whatever you get placed on your heart, don't take it for granted anymore. Look into it, even if it seems silly. Because I tell you what, yesterday, I really was drawn to have a look at crystals, to watch documentaries on how crystals form, where crystals originated from, what they really are, etc., etc. And I got so in depth. I watched at least about 4 hours worth of documentaries. Anyway, there was this documentary that was talking about the crystals that form from volcanoes, from the magma. Oh my goodness, maga, whatever it is. Anyway, sidetracked. And so one of the crystals that form in a volcanic situation is one called Beryl. And when I was watching this documentary, I'm like, oh, Beryl, that's in the Bible, and I looked at it and I thought, this is such a pretty crystal and beautiful in colour, right? And so I looked right into Beryl, and I can't even really remember what I found about it, but I know that I did, a good 20 minutes, half an hour research on just Beryl alone. And then today, this cyclone was maybe talked about yesterday, but I don't watch the news, and I only seen this like 2 hours ago added on this Q post. So, if you're over in America and you heard about this yesterday or the day before, that's fine. I haven't. But I was quite surprised to see that this cyclone is called Beryl. I'm like, wow, okay, I see what you're doing there, Father. But anyway, so this is this huge one, and it's a category 5, and it's a monster. It is literally a monster. And so I got to thinking, these posts here, because you see all the time in the comments, I'm sick of hearing this. I've heard it for years. You're always saying this, and when is this going to happen, and, all this type of stuff. And as I've said in previous videos to you, this takes time, brothers and sisters. If there really is a bunch of people, military people, anonymous people, whoever it is that is Q, if it's legit, and they are truly taking down the evil of the world, the foot soldiers, then of course they're going to take years and years and years to do it. They can't just come in and go, brah. They'll be taken out by the enemy big time. They've got to do this in the shadows. And so, look around us. Every group of people, the rapture people, the Christians, the this, the that, the New Agers, and like I said, I hate titles, but I'm just giving you that for you to understand. Every group of people knows that we're coming to the end of something. Something huge is coming. So why not look at all angles. And why I get so excited about this, Q being 17, as I said before, 17, right? For years and years and years, I've done TikToks and done videos, rapture videos on this date. Because what is the date emoji on an iPhone? July 17, 717. Okay, 717. Now, I'm pretty sure Genesis 717 is when the ark was lifted above the water. Okay, and it was above the mountains. So in other words, being rescued, being delivered, whatever it may be. So this has always stuck in my brain for 4 or 5 years, July 17th, because it's the iPhone emoji. I don't know if it's the same for Android, but I'm like, out of all the dates in the world, why that one? Why July 17th? It's not like the middle. They could have said, June 1st or, June 31st, June 30th or July 1st, you know what I mean? Or July 4th, because it's Independence Day. And I'm like, okay, Q is 17. July 17th is the date emoji. And so I have a look at July, just the word July, okay? July is the 7th month of the year in the Julian and Gregorian calendars. Its length is 31 days. It was named by the Roman Senate in honour of Roman Julius Caesar in 44 BC, being the month of his birth. Before then, it was called Quintilis, being the 5th month of the calendar that started with March. It is on average the warmest month in most of the Northern Hemisphere, where it is the 2nd month of summer, and the coolest month of much of the Southern Hemisphere, where it's the 2nd month of winter. The second half of the year commences in July. In the Southern Hemisphere, July is the seasonal equivalent of January in the Northern Hemisphere. Dog days are considered to begin in early July in the Northern Hemisphere, when the hot, sultry weather of summer usually starts. Okay, spring lambs born in late winter or early spring are usually sold before 1st of July. So I'm like, dog days? That sounds like the dog star, which I grew up knowing as the God star, the big bright one that you see every day, when you look up to the sky at night, you see this, and it's called Sirius. Now, dog is God backwards. I've always just thought that was interesting. So I have a look what dog days means. And we go have a look at the origin of dog days. It's hot again up in the Northern Hemisphere. It's that time of year when the sun shines its most unforgiving beams, baking the ground and indeed us. It is a portion of summer known as the hottest time of the year, or more delightfully, the dog days. Contrary to common conjecture, the dog days do not take their particular name from the weather that isn't fit for a dog, or heat that is so extreme it drives dogs mad. These folk etymologies shrink in comparison to the actual background of the phrase, a story of astronomical proportions. The dog days, in the most technical sense, referred to the 1 to 2 month interval in which a particularly bright star rises and sets with the sun, shining during the daylight hours and staying hidden at night. This star is known by 3 names: Sirius, the dog star, and Alpha Canis Majoris. Apart from being the most prominent star in the constellation Canis Major, which is Latin for greater dog, this heavenly body is responsible for the origin of the expression dog's days, a phrase that has endured through millennia. Classicists and astronomers will know the dog star as Sirius. The earliest record of this name comes from the Greek poet Hesiod in the Work and Days, written in the 7th century, meaning searing or scorching. Okay, so this tradition continues in the Harry Potter series. Sirius Black's animagus form is a large black dog. Interesting. I didn't read that far. So, very interesting. Very interesting. Scorching heat. Very interesting that is written in the book of Revelation. You know, that the sun's going to be given power to scorch men with great heat. That is interesting. So, I had a look at when the 17th of July would be, and it falls on a Wednesday. So, I have a look up Wednesday. Very interesting. Wednesday is the day of the week between Tuesday and Thursday according to international standards. It is the third day of the week. In countries which have Friday as their holiday, Wednesday is the fifth day of the week. In countries which use the Sunday first convention, in both Islamic and Jewish calendars, Wednesday is the fourth day of the week. In English, the name is derived from Old English Woodnesdag, and Middle English Wednesdia, day of wooden, reflecting the religious practice by the Anglo-Saxons, the English equivalent to the Norse god Odin. In many Romance languages, such as the French Mercredi, Spanish, and Italian, the day's name is a calque of Latin dies Mercurii, which means the day of Mercury. Wednesday is in the middle of the common Western 5-day work week that starts on Monday, finishes on Friday. So basically, it is Woodnesday, okay? The day of Mercury. That is very curious, the day of Mercury, okay? So that's a whole new study in itself. Because I did a video last year in 2023 when I was sussing out and saying I don't think it's the moon that's eclipsing the sun on solar eclipses. It just doesn't make any sense. And then I did a whole video on I believe it might actually be Mercury that's eclipsing the sun. So there's that. So that all ties into the dog days, right? And we know that Sirius is also the star that resides in the Virgin's sheaf of wheat that she has in her hand. So Virgo, the Virgo constellation, which represents the Virgo or Venus, okay, has a sheaf of wheat in her hands, and that's where Sirius will sit. And it used to be called Aviv. Okay, it used to be called Aviv, and this is how the Israelites or the Jews would know when their first month was, when that star was there, or the 7th month. Anyway, so I'm okay. Let's look at our next thing. Let's look at Mercury. So I have a look at Mercury and notice something very interesting. Okay, the fact that Mercury looks like the moon, for one. I mean, look at that's what I said. You know, they say, oh, the moon eclipses the sun, and that's where we get solar eclipses. And then I'm like, to me, in my studies, it looks like it's Mercury. Mercury has phases, just like Venus. They have phases of them. And guess what it says here? That Mercury's sidereal year is 88 Earth days. Okay, so this means that one side of Mercury will remain in sunlight for one Mercurian year of 88 Earth days, while during the next orbit, that side will be in darkness all the time until the next sunrise after another 88 days. Brothers and sisters, on Mercury, it lasts for around 176 Earth days. That is 2 times 88. Now, this is what's incredible. I did many videos when I was showing you that the full moon was, I believed, was the first day of the month, right? I was showing you the full abundant moon must be the first day. It can't be the slither of the moon because that's Babylonian. That makes no sense because in the wilderness and in the If it was dark or cloudy or rainy and the clouds were out, you couldn't see the slither of the moon. So how could they do that correctly? But when there's a big, full, abundant moon, even if it's cloudy, you still see that big brightness, and it would have been so much easier to travel at night under a full moon. So this is why, to me, logically, the moon would have been the first day of the month, the full moon, okay? Now, when I was showing you that in 2014, 2015, when we had the blood moon tetrads, the blood moon to blood moon was exactly 177 days apart. And this is an ancient Jewish tradition to know and understand, if they ever got lost again in time, that from the first day of the first month to the first day of the seventh month was exactly 177 days. What's the middle of that? Pentecost, okay? Pentecost, or Shavuot, Feast of Weeks, and that's 88 days. And I'm like, oh, this is how unreal that I was like, Mercury must be what's eclipsing the sun last year, right? And then it happens to be 88 days, and usually we see eclipses, whether they're solar or lunar, to mark these Jewish feast days, okay? And look, I believe they're controlling everything. This is why they can, predict stuff years in the future. They can say we're going to have an eclipse in the year 2031 on, April 30th, whatever. Because they're in control of all this stuff. It's their world. It's their domain, okay? But what I wanted to show you, what's interesting, is if you take a date calendar and you go from the 17th of June 2024 and you minus 88 days, you get to the 20th of April 2024. And, many people would believe, there's a few Orthodox people out there who say that was actually the true Passover, the day of Jesus' crucifixion. Very, very interesting, okay? And so, we add another, I don't know what happens if we add another. Let's see what we get. So with the 20th of April 2024, and if we add, we get the 13th of October 2024. But anyway, let's just get back to this. I found that extremely interesting. So, let's go to the 20th of April 2024 up here. You can see Passover. They've got Passover here, April 22nd after nightfall. Okay. Okay, so I thought that was quite interesting. So what's my next thing? Stellarium. Okay, and I think Stellarium is a psyops, because everything is run by them. Everything is controlled by them. But the reality is they live on the gentleman's code. They have to tell us these things beforehand. So there's always a little bit of truth in any of these things. So this is the 17th of July 2024. Okay? Have a look at this. Have a look where Venus is. Right in the back of Cancer. Okay? The constellation of Cancer. Venus is right in the beehive cluster. Okay, the beehive cluster, you see this here. Okay, beehive cluster. The beehive cluster, also known as Priere Espier, Latin for manger, cot, or crib. So Venus being the woman, she's in the manger. Very interesting, okay? But also very interesting that she is on Cancer. Because when you have a look at the Illuminati, like Freemasons archway, the picture of the archway where you've got Jacob's ladder, the stairway to heaven, at the very top of their arch will be the sign of Cancer. Okay, that's their sign. And so I just thought that was very interesting. That's on July 17th. Now, I haven't done date videos for so long, but I just thought I'd throw that out there because interesting. I think July will be an interesting time for us, okay? Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about. Now, this is going to be even more of a controversy. So hold your breath, get ready for the next thing. I want to talk about we've got a Heavenly Father. Can we just put this on the table for a second and have a chat about it? A lot of people in my not a lot of people, there's been a few people over the years that have always wrote about God being a woman. Okay, now I'm not saying that Father is a woman, but I would also like to talk about and put on the table that we have a mother as well. Okay, because it makes sense. Okay, it absolutely makes sense that we have a mother and a father. And the mother was the one who maybe birthed creation of the worlds and the planets and the universes and the galaxies. Just hear me out, because I've got some biblical scriptures that can sort of, I don't know, I feel like I can back it up a little bit, okay? I've always ignored this comment when people have wrote on my comment section saying, oh, wisdom, she's a woman, and God is a woman, etc., etc. I've always ignored that because Heavenly Father, my Father in heaven is my husband, etc., etc. That's always been etched in my mind. But the more I look into it, and the more I see the words that Jesus actually spoke, I'm like, hang on a diddly-dilly. I want to ask something here, okay? It makes sense that every person has a mother and a father, right? So why not the male and the female, the mother and the father, be there right in the beginning, okay? And we see in the Old Testament, talks about wisdom, and it always uses the pronoun of her, okay? She has a female pronoun of her. Now, riddle me this. Why does it say in the New Testament that, you can say anything against the Son and it shall be forgiven of you? You can say anything against the Father and it'll be forgiven of you. But if you blaspheme the Holy Spirit, you will not be forgiven in this world or in the world to come. And that's an interesting phrase there in itself, in the world to come. So, okay, so you can blaspheme and sin against the Son and the Father, and it can be forgiven of you. But the unforgivable sin in this world and the world after is the blasphemy of the Holy Spirit. Now, who is the Holy Spirit? What's the allegory of the Holy Spirit? It's wisdom, right? That's how it's written in Psalms, that the wisdom is Holy Spirit, right? Now, Sophia is a huge look into Sophia. I know it seems to be a Catholic Orthodox thing or whatever, but Sophia is in a lot of different cultural ancient texts. Okay, it seems to be that our Bible is the most whitewashed book that we've got. Whereas if you go to the other books, the other ancient texts, they all have the same story. Long before the Bible, may I add you. And they all give respect to the female part. Whereas when you look at Judaism and Christianity, i.e. Paul, they're very against women, okay? But who is it the one that brings life into this world? Mother, the Eve, okay? Eve is the mother of all things, okay? So if you want to have a look at the Gnostic creation of the world story, go do that. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked here, but what I'm saying is Jesus even mentions here in Matthew 11:9. Okay, it says, the Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, behold, a man gluttonous and a wine bitter, a friend of the publicans and sinners, but wisdom is justified of her children. Okay, and then down here in Luke, but wisdom is justified of all of her children. Interesting, it's not talked about in Mark. But I just wanted to point this out, okay? The wisdom is justified of all of her children. So Jesus says these things and gives wisdom a pronoun of a her. Now, I just want to throw it out there, brothers and sisters. You know, the wisdom. Wisdom is knowledge, right? Wisdom and knowledge, because you need knowledge and then you need the understanding of that knowledge, and that's what wisdom is, right? And then so first you start with information, then you have knowledge, and then you get wisdom when you understand it and discern it and all this kind of thing. Let's look at this. This is, I know my mind is trippy and it wanders off and goes on little adventures on its own. Let's look at this from the beginning, okay? The tree, the garden and the tree. The tree of knowledge of good and evil. The tree of knowledge, right? You know, you've heard it said that, atheists or people, who like to question these things, it's like, maybe it wasn't so fair that the snake got in trouble, the so-called snake in the garden, offering knowledge to Eve. Because remember, so-called the serpent, Satan, right, supposedly said to Eve, you surely won't die. You'll just have your eyes opened and you'll be like God, knowing good and evil. Let's think logically for a second. How is knowing something worthy of you getting kicked out of paradise? And people throw their hands up and say, it's disobedience. She was disobedient. That's why they got kicked out of the garden. I mean, really? Really? You as a parent would throw your child out of your home if they knew something? Okay, and how much more do you want to say that our Father in heaven loves us? He's a greater parent, isn't he? So why? That makes no sense. Maybe the understanding of knowledge of good and evil so that we could make that proper free choice was actually what we needed. And I know people are going to be like, whoa, you're way off the other track. But let's be logical here. Let's have reason. Let's reason together. And it says in the New Testament that people perish from their lack of knowledge. And it was a curse in the garden to have knowledge, was it not? Were we supposed to remain with no will? Because if you don't know good and evil, you can't have a will, you can't have a choice, can you? So all these things are getting put together, and the point of the video that I'm trying to make, the point that I'm trying to make with these videos rather, is that they've twisted and manipulated this story so bad. And this is why. I mean, even in the book of Enoch, it says that men were never supposed to have pen and paper and write stories. We were forbidden. This shouldn't have been a thing. We should still be telepathically talking to each other and living in harmony and peace and living with Father, living with Source. We should all still be doing this, but something happened. Someone made a big boo-boo, and we thought it was a great idea to try this boo-boo out. We ended up here on this earth, and now we're going to have to play the waiting game so that we can go back home. Okay, and when I say go back home, there is a new earth, absolutely. A new earth that is waiting for us. Okay, but it is not the New Jerusalem. Jerusalem and all this stuff is an attachment to, the Davidic lineage. They want to hold on to that so bad. And this is why they hated Jesus so much, is because Jesus didn't bring a physical, tangible kingdom to this earth. They hated him for that, because he didn't do what they thought. They want a king. They want to look up on someone. People need that. People need to look up to somebody who is righteous and all this kind of stuff. And, You know, Jesus wasn't seen as this righteous Roman ruler that would, or Jewish ruler that would conquer the Romans and, you know, make the Jews the kings of the earth, all this kind of thing. And they hated him for that. But I just want to sit here and talk to you and be honest with you to say, I've got questions. I've got questions, brothers and sisters. And it's the thing is, I never question Jesus's or Yeshua's intention. I truly believe he was, at the very least, a prophet, one of the greatest prophets of all time, of Father, of Source. And he came to set and help us be freed of this matrix. And, you know, whether all this other stuff was attached to it, because I think, you know, and I've got to be trying to be so careful, but you know, it's coming to the you know, the big finale of this all, so I'm just going to say it how I feel. Do you ever think sometimes that the whole story of Jesus' death and brutality and murder and sorrow and whipping and lashing and horrendousness that went on of the story of the cross, what if that was fabricated, brothers and sisters? I'm asking the question. Don't throw stones at me yet. But what if that was fabricated to keep us in a constant state of just low, negative vibration? When you think about that story, I don't know. I don't know, brothers and sisters. I'm just putting it out there. What if it was done so well that they use human emotions to their utmost degree? They find humans' weakest emotions. Okay, and I mean, what do we always, we'll walk around and say, I'm covered in the blood of Jesus. I'm covered in the blood of Jesus. You know, think about what we're saying here. How does that make sense in any other point in our life? You know what I'm saying? How does being covered in the blood of something or someone mean a good thing other than what it means in Christianity? I'm just putting it out there. I'm just asking the questions. What if Jesus, Yeshua, came and did the mission? I mean, he's not the first person to die for love for God, right? He's not the only person to do that. And how can, I mean, you look in the Old Testament, it says that, you know, look at the Ten Commandments. You know, those that hate me, I'm going to visit their generations 3 times or whatever, and, you know, and give them plagues. And, you know, how can my great-grandchildren pay for the sins that I did? And what is sin? We've talked about this before. What is sin? Okay? Sin is the name of the moon god. Okay, and the Gnostic story of creation tells you where sin came from. What was it where sin entered the world? It was what we know today as Yahweh. Okay, and he was created, and he became prideful, and he thought he was the one and only one, and that everybody should bow down to him. You can see this all through the Old Testament. Okay, only I am God. I'm a jealous God, and I'll avenge those that don't believe in me. Okay, so I'm getting sidetracked. I forgot my train of thought. All I'm saying is that what if this whole blood sacrifice, the whole being covered in the blood, you know those verses in the Bible, it says, you know, drink my blood and eat my flesh, and then people left him and said, oh, I can't handle this saying, this is... I would have done that too. If someone's telling me to eat their blood and drink their eat their flesh and drink their blood, I'll be like, yeah, you're right. See you later. Life is in the blood. And look at look at the satanic, what they do with blood and the ritual sacrifice. It's exactly what the Jews do, and exactly, I don't know. I'm just putting it out there on the table. With what I was talking about, the book of Mark, how he stops at, that man with the white robe saying, oh, Jesus is risen, he's gone, he's not here. And then the women are like so terrified and they told no one. And it stops there. And then quite interestingly, it's the added verses are saying, these signs will follow true believers, that they're speaking in tongues, that they're, raising people from the dead, that they can drink poison and nothing will happen to them. Like, really? Really? But it does make sense why Paul does all these things. Another thing, brothers and sisters, why in the book of Matthew, Mark and Luke, in the so-called coming of the Son of Man in the cloud chapters, why do they never ever talk about the mark of the beast? Do you not think that the mark of the beast would be the most extremely important sign for the end of the world? Okay, for the end of the world. Let's have a look at Mark 13, actually. Let's have a little look at Mark 13. But yes, the mark of the beast is never written about. The mark of the beast is a Freemason Judaic playbook script, which is the book of Revelation. I'm telling you, it's an added book. That is why that book says, blessed is he who reads these words and obeys these things that are in the book. And it's the only book that says, if you take anything away from this book or add anything to this book, then you're going to get curses and part of your book of life will be removed and all this stuff. Okay, so Mark 13. The coming of the Son of Man, has all been fulfilled. All these Matthew 24, it's all been fulfilled, brothers and sisters. We've gone down this road before and we thought the millennial reign kingdom has already come. It's already been on this earth. No. What the Matthew 24, Mark 13 and Luke 21 is talking about was the destruction of the temple in 70 AD. And they got that because the best and final messenger, he was, let's just say he was crucified. And they killed him. And just like the parable of the wedding, or the vineyard parable, where the husbandman, father, the source, sends prophets, and the Jews basically killed them. They killed all of them, right? Like exactly what Jesus said. You killed each and every one of them, from Abel to Zechariah. And then, after all this, the husbandman, father, source, sends his son. He says, surely they'll listen to my son. And what did they do? They said, this one is the heir of the Father's kingdom. Let's bash him up, kill him. And, and it says that the husbandman, father, source, was extremely wrath. And so these books here, Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21, are all telling you the signs of that time to come. Surely you who are standing here will see me coming in the kingdom of heaven in all my glory and power. They all did. Peter, John, and somebody else, they saw Jesus come into his kingdom. And that's even a story for another time. But anyway, let's have a look at Mark 13 and let's see what we can pick out here. So first thing I want you to notice is the questions that the disciples ask. Tell us, when shall these things be? What's that? Well, Jesus was saying that, there shall be not left one stone upon another that shall not be all thrown down. So tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign when all these things shall be fulfilled? Mark does not say what will be the sign of your coming or of the end of the world, whereas Matthew does. Okay? But Mark does not. Mark just says, when will these things be that all the stones will be thrown down? And what will be the sign when all of these things will be finished or fulfilled? This is what the whole thing's talking about, is when will the signs come of the temple being destroyed and not having one stone left upon each other? And this happened. This is literally a historical war document. That's what it is. And so where we are right now, what we are right now is is we are living in a time that Jesus, his mission, what he did, the revelation, the understanding, the wisdom, the unveiling of how we are, how we can get back home, how we can be freed, how we can be unchained from the burdens that the enemy has put on us. That's what Yeshua came to do. Okay, we're living in that time now that we live a good life, we be good, we try and live at a high vibration, which all that means is to live in love, kindness, light, to value and respect even the little ant and the cricket and, and the little ground worms and the birds and the bees, and not have this intention or desire to be this dominant human being that has authority to this world and everything in it, and whatever I need, I'm going to satisfy that. We need to stop that. This is what living on a high vibration means, and this is why Yeshua, Jesus, could come and do this mission, and this is why he ascended. Notice the word ascended, right? You see this a lot in the so-called New Age. Okay, we're going to the Ascension. This is what the New Ages are looking forward to, is the Great Awakening, the Ascension of going from 3D into 5D. Now that may sound mystical and magical, but in a matter of fact, all it is exactly saying the same things as a Christian would say. We are going from this earth to a new earth, but it's just in a different perspective. Okay? Because the reality that we see is not real. It is literally a hologram. And there is this, I hope I've got it, because there is this video. Okay, let's have a look at this TikTok, because there is this video that shows, the saying, if a tree falls in the wood and nobody's there to hear it, did it even fall? How can anybody possibly answer that? And now they've come up scientifically with an explanation to give that evidence that no, because nobody observed it, it never existed. Basically what I'm trying to say, because I'm not a scientist, but basically, if you do not observe something, it doesn't exist. Now, they're scientifically proven that. I know that sounds bizarre, but if you do not observe something with your own eyes, it does not exist. And just before I show you this video, thank you, Father, it makes sense why Jesus says the kingdom of heaven is something you cannot observe. Okay, because it was within you. So that's where you got to start looking. That's where the kingdom of heaven is. Seek ye the kingdom of heaven first, brothers and sisters. Think about that in a different way. Seek ye inside first. Remember, Jesus said, if you want to pray to the Father, go, shut the door, go into your secret place and worship the Father in secret. And what he tells you in the secret, and what you say in the secret, he will reward you openly. This is the legit law of attraction. I'm telling you right now. This is making so much sense. Okay? The kingdom of heaven is something you can't find and look at. It's within you. Now, let's have a look at this. This is a scientific analysis of what I just said. I think this is the one because I've got so many here. I hope it's not blaringly loud. Nope. That is not the one. Official. That is not the one. Um, I don't know if I touched on this before about Sophia being the Holy Spirit, being wisdom, okay? And I don't know if I touched on this part where I said, you know, you can sin against the Father, you can sin against the Son, but blasphemy against the Holy Spirit, which effectively is our mother, which is wisdom, which is Sophia, that is unforgivable. And this is why Jesus said, you know, when the guy says, Jesus, what must I do to be saved? And he said, honour thy mother and father, don't steal and don't lie. And then the guy says, I've done this all since my youth. And then Jesus said, well, if you want to be perfect, then sell everything that you have and come and follow me. Okay, that is perfection. It is because you're realizing that the world, the tangible things in this world, make it very hard to enter into the kingdom of heaven, which is inside you. People don't want to do that. Okay, this is the difference between, you know, manifesting the law of attraction, where I want all this money, but you know, see, it's the love of money, brothers and sisters, that's the root of all evil. The love of it. You know, it is perfectly fine to want to manifest money into your life if you have a good heart already. This is why it says, you know, the little old lady, she comes up and she puts everything into the temple bowl, everything that she had. She only had a few pennies, but she gave everything. And Jesus said, this woman here gave more than anybody else did because she gave everything that she had, because she understood that the truth and the peace of knowing, of understanding, is so much more valuable than money. Okay? So much more valuable than money. But what I wanted to show you, I don't want to try and look for it now and take forever. But basically there was this scientific experiment where they were beaming this light into two slits in a cardboard paper, right? And when the light was on, the beams went into these two splits and made two markings on the paper. Okay, they made two markings on the paper that was behind the slits of paper. Okay, so what they did was turn the lights on and put these beams through these two slits again, and because it was in the darkness and nobody observed it, it made like 7 slits on the other side. So what I'm trying to say to you, brothers and sisters, is going back to this whole, if a tree falls in the forest, no one sees it, did it actually fall? No, it didn't. If you do not observe it with your eyes, then it doesn't exist. This is what this whole kingdom of heaven within is talking about. This changing of reality. I know it's been demonized. Believe me, it's been a hard hurdle to get over and to understand the truth of this. It's not anti-God, it's not anti-Father, it's not anti-Yeshua. This is what Yeshua came to teach, is that anything is possible. This is why he said, if, you know, 2 or 3 asked in my name, or even a mustard seed, the faith of the size of a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move, and it'll move into the ocean. This is what we've been stopped, this is what we've been kept in prison for, brothers and sisters, is not understanding our power that we've been given as children of the Most High. Okay? This is the reality, that we are these incredible creatures. And, you know, it even goes back into the Anunnaki story. Okay, the Anunnaki of Enlil and Enki, when they created us, when they made the hybrid human race, it was said that I forget whether it's Enki or Enlil, right? That's the Elohim and Yahweh. One of them added a little bit extra juice, if you know what I'm saying, which gave us, not only did they say that one of these two gave us the secret codes on our DNA to the secrets of the universe. And this is what we're coming to now, is to find those keys and unlock the secrets to the universe, which is happening right before our eyes with the awakening. But it was also said that we got a little bit extra juice, which made us become better than the Elohim. And this is why there was this constant resetting, or the flooding, or the deluge, all these resets that they've tried, because they know that, we were given this power that needs to be unlocked within us. And once we realize this, and they know that we're about to reach this moment any second now, and they're shitting their pants, brothers and sisters. And this has all to do with that video that I was talking about with the CIA guy, where he's like, there's only one possible, we've put in hundreds and thousands of possibilities, scenarios that can play out. And there's only one final conclusion and ending to this all. And they hate it. The enemy hates it, because he can see. He's like, crap, I do lose. I do, I am destroyed. So that was a tangent. Let me see. I hope you understand what I'm saying. I'm not trying to be, blasphemous, or trying to steer you off on, you're free to think as you will. This is just my journey, like I said. And I just want to give you some things to think about. June 19th. This is interesting. This is from a woman who, it's the first time I've ever seen a date setter from one of these people who are, what you would call New Agers, right? Usually they don't date set. They just say that, the Great Awakening's happening, we're shifting, there's, the human resonance and all this kind of stuff. This woman says that she's been told the 19th of July is the day of the shift. Basically, it's when the two parallels, 3D and 5D, they're going to shift from each other. Remember, I was telling you in previous videos, a great analogy is there's two train tracks that run beside each other, 3D and 5D, all right? And right now we can jump between the two. We can go back into the world, we can go back, and resonate at a high frequency and go into 5D. We can shift between the two, but there's going to come a time where those train tracks are going to split off. And it's going to be harder and harder and harder until one day it's impossible. And this is what I believe is the so-called Great Tribulation. There will be people left behind that are grasping onto this world and everything that the world has to offer. Whereas I'm ready to go home. Like, seriously, if I didn't have my kids, take me home now, Papa. Take me home now. I'm ready to go back to my spirit, and all this good stuff. So I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Whatever's happening, whether there's rapture, whether there's an ascension, whether there's a whatever it may be, I know, and I feel very safe and saved within myself, because I'm doing this work on myself. That's what I've been doing the last couple of months since I've had this journey, is really working on myself and relearning, re-educating the way I speak, the way I talk, the way I think, to myself and to others, and correcting myself as soon as I go into a negative thought pattern. I correct it. I respect it. I let my thought have that negative thought, but it's not my own, and I respect it and let it go off, and then I get back to being positive. It's work. We have to work. It's a spiritual work exercise that we have to do each and every day. That's why it's so important. But so that was interesting. I just think June and July are very, very interesting months anyway. So, Lost City of El Dorado, that was interesting. That's got something to do with Antarctica, basically Hitler. long story short, you know how there's supposed to be aliens there and there's underground bases in Antarctica. Well, basically this video is showing that it's like, this is actually the lost city of El Dorado. The reason I saved this one is because that's literally my favourite animation of all time, was The Road to El Dorado. I love that animation. It's one of my favourite of all time animations. And because that's how my dreams and daydreaming is pretty much El Dorado. I love watching stranded on island videos on YouTube and stuff where they're stranded on an island purposely for like a week or whatever, and they have to make their own shelter and find their own food. That is my favourite thing to watch. I love that. So anything with an adventure like that, I really love. But that's what they were saying. That's where that myth, so-called myth, comes from, is in Antarctica. And that's why there's this whole treaty, the Antarctic Treaty, you're not supposed to go there, all this kind of stuff. And it makes sense when you look into the Anunnaki, the story of the reason why they came to this planet in the first place was because we got lots of gold here. And again, I go back to my videos months ago where I talked about and showed you that picture I drew where when Satan, Lucifer, whatever, when he fell to this earth, like, they're huge, okay? Spiritual angels and stuff are huge. So when he fell to this earth, it says that he was clothed in rubies and gems, and he walked through up and down the fire, right? So when he fell to this earth, gold and minerals and gems went everywhere, all over the earth. He sort of fell and crashed, and his clothing came off, right? Just like Adam and Eve's clothing. They lost their brightness, their spirit, and then they realised they were naked. So there's creatures, these beings on other planets like the Anunnaki and stuff. They figured out gold is very valuable, and they were using it to reflect the sun's basically heat rays, everything that was destroying their planet. And so this is why they found Earth, and they were like, Earth has got heaps of gold, let's mine the gold here. That's how the whole story started there. And it makes sense because so many other cultures talk about this except for the Bible, but we seem to have the most whitewashed version of it all. But anyway, this one here, Stop Trying to Save People, Energy Stealers video. All right, this is amazing because this used to be me, always trying to save people. Oh, the rapture's going to happen. You need to do this and you need to do that, otherwise you're going to be left behind. Oh, for years and years, I was trying to save people, and this made so much sense. And I put it together with another video I saw. That's why I wrote it like this. I saw a video of two people, happy and sad, or negative, positive and negative, and they've got like torus fields around them. Okay, that's like our bubble. And when you come across a negative person, you've got a torus field, they've got a torus field, and when the torus field connect, that bit in the middle there is like grey. So just say you're white, he's black. In the middle, the energy is grey because it's, whatever. But in another analogy is you've got a happy person and you've got a sad person that's always like, oh, I can't do this, I hate life. And you're always like, oh, it's okay, life is awesome, you should look at it this way. We're trying to help these people, trying to save these people. Those people never come up to your level. Okay, and when I saw this, I'm like, damn, that makes so much sense. Those people never come up to your level. You are always going down to their low vibrations to try and help them and so-called save them. Okay, so you are giving up your energy, which is what you're made out of. You know what I'm saying? So the whole system, the whole religious system is you go out, you win people for the gospel, and you've got to be there trying to save people. when we really should be focusing on ourselves, looking in within ourselves, trying to become love and light, exactly what Jesus told us to do, the greatest commandment: love our Father in heaven with all our heart, soul and mind, and then love your neighbour as yourself. Okay, love your neighbour as yourself. That means you've got to love yourself, because your neighbour is you. Okay, we are all one and the same. We are the one, all of us with the soul. We are all under the love and the original creation of Father in the beginning, of Source. We're all one. And once we see that we're all one, how can I express this in a way that people won't go, ew, what are you talking about? Well, we're all one, we're all one with the grass and everything. Brothers and sisters, you have to appreciate the truth of this. If you look at a dog or a cat or an ant or the tree as one with you, you will never rip a branch off a tree. You will never squash another ant again. You'll never, do anything negative to any living creature, because it is all part of, one essence. So if you realize that we're all in this together, from the littlest ant to the biggest animal, we're all in this together, brothers and sisters, and we shouldn't have this desire for sacrifice and blood and anyway, I'm going to leave this video tonight, brothers and sisters. How long has this been going for? Nearly 2 hours. All right, wow. Didn't even know what I was going to talk about at the beginning of this. I hope you've had, you've got some good things to think about. Like I said, again, I want to stress this is my journey, my walk, my theories, my ideas. If it resonates with you, that's fantastic. If it doesn't, that's also cool. I love you very much, and I hope that, you can continue to send me emails and things like this. I've been very super slack on getting back to emails. I haven't even really wanted to do this video, but I'm glad I've done it now, because I knew it would pick me up and make me feel better. Like I said, there's so much information that it's become overwhelming. And so I thought I'd just jump on here, offload a bit of my brain volcanic ash and share that with you. So I hope these things, I hope it has blessed you. This video has blessed you. I hope that the Father will bless you and is blessing you, and I know He is. And I love you also very much. Remember, you've got nothing to fear. Because fear is just, something that the enemy likes to do to keep us in control. No fear. No fear. Our Father in heaven, the Source, is much billion, trillion, infinity more times more powerful than any of these little critters on this earth. Okay? So I'll leave you with that. I love you, and I will see you hopefully in the next video. Okay? Father bless you. Bye-bye.